you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hello, this is Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Gentlemen, our listeners, that makes official. Welcome over 16 years and 2,300 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and Chris Voss Facebook.com. You can see all the wonderful groups and things that we do over there. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today we have an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his book and his thought process and how he wants to change the business world for better. Today, I'm trying to change the business world for evil. He's trying to change the world for better. Anyway, it's the title of his book is called Truth Has No Sides. September 25th, 2024. It's out. Charley Johnson joins us on the show. We're going to be talking about his concepts, ideas, and how maybe you can add a new job title to your company to make things better. Charley has 20 plus years in corporate and as a business owner, 7 years in nonprofit as the president of the Pay It Forward Foundation, and 10 years with an enlightened teacher. The combination of these three things creates a unique set of skills that can be crucial for companies and their employees moving forward. He is working to bring the position of Chief Consciousness Officer to the forefront of the business world and into all companies. I want that job, CCO. Welcome to the show. How are you, Charley?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Pleasure to have you as well. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
Oh, I would say the best thing is my LinkedIn, which we'll probably put in the video, but they could go to clearyourlake.com if they want, but I really like to drive people to the LinkedIn.
Okay, so go to the LinkedIn first. The link will be on the Chris Voss Show and all that good stuff. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in the book?
The book is just my experience, a little bit about me growing up in Utah, not being Mormon, not being Catholic, having a very blank slate as an understanding for religion or spirituality, not even being in my awareness, going through my business aspect, having the training in business, having the training with nonprofit and the Pay It Forward. And then most of it is my time with my teacher, a very intelligent, very enlightened individual that most people who cross his path end up meditating for the rest of their life. They kind of leave corporate behind. Money's not an issue. They go on to enlightenment and leave. I chose, or the universe chose for me to embody that and bring those unique set of skills with the business background, the nonprofit background, and then the understanding of consciousness and how things work to, in a sense, bridge those worlds, because it's too much of a Republican, Democrat, Catholic, atheist, too much of the capitalism. Now it's evil. We're going to go become spiritual. Or I don't like religion. I'm going to become spiritual. Spirituality is just the newest religion. It's just as dogmatic and as constructed as everything else. So we've got to merge those two worlds, and someone's got to have the clarity and the understanding of both to help that happen.
And your mission is to do that. Now, in the book, you say truth has no sides. What does the title refer to?
Just that. So my truth is I'm a Republican and Democrats are ruining the world. Okay. The Democrats feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
So the truth has no sides. It's just bringing to the awareness of both sides of the argument that if you're right, they have to be right as well. If you think they're wrong, then you're wrong. And I know people completely disagree with that, but Catholic and an atheist, a Republican, a Democrat, a right, wrong, we are all built off our bias and our conditioning. And we're so blind to it that we don't pay attention to it. It's like the fish in water. When the wise fish comes by two fish and says, "How's the water?" And the two fish look at each other. What's the water? Yeah. We are completely ignorant to that. And this is consciousness. Yeah. You and I and all your guests, anyone watching now or later down the road, everything is consciousness. We don't even know. We don't know what water is.
Yeah, it was funny. We were about to use the same, I was about to use the same analogy you did, that, fish can't see water just like humans can't see air. And so we can't see the scotomas that we have before us, the blind spots, as it were.
Yes.
And it's hard to see them. And so give us a definition of what consciousness is to the layman out there I'm not sure I'm up on it.
Well, the best metaphor is that. Hey, boys, how's the water? Fish look at each other. What's water? Everything physical and non-physical is consciousness. Scientists, neuroscience, everyone, we had those two varying type of understandings where one was fundamental to the universe and the other one was created by the brain. Now, the people who said that consciousness is created by the brain, they're starting to really understand that it's fundamental, because tens of millions of people have had near-death experiences and everything's checked out, heart's gone, brain, there's no machine that says anything in their body's alive, but they can tell you everything that's happened. They can tell you everything the doctor said. Consciousness is not created by the brain. Looking for consciousness inside the brain is like looking in your car radio for the band that's playing.
I've seen some people's brains too, and there's nothing there either. So.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing. But everything is conscious, physical and non-physical. Every thought, you, me, the universe, the planet, other people, plants, animals, everything is consciousness. And now all we've done on this planet is only focus on the mind. The mind is the receiver. It's the middleman. The middleman's lost its freaking mind. Look at the world today. We've got to tap back into the source. We've got to understand there's something past the mind. And just those simple words right there, plant a seed in your listeners to say, okay, what is past the mind? What is consciousness? Everything is consciousness. And again, we are swimming in it. We are swimming in it right here, right now, always have and always will. It's everything.
Just like the fish, you can't see the water.
Correct.
I think I peed in mine. Never mind. I'm not going to explain it. I think people get the joke. So what prompted you to write this book? What was the motivation behind it? Just for people to help them understand the different modalities that are out there, to help them understand there's a significant amount of people who hear things, who see things, who have experiences that if they shared with their family, they would be seen as crazy. If they shared with their bishop or their religion or their community, they'd be excommunicated. It doesn't matter if they're Mormon, Catholic, or atheist. There's more people than not that experience something that the laws of physics or their eyes can't perceive. To allow them to understand that that's not magical, that's normal, and that's where the world's going. The book was written about me going through hypnosis, going through the Akashic records, through the invisible library, going through the channeling, going through energy healing, being on a call like you and I are, where we're in completely opposite parts of the world, and feeling what that individual is doing from 10,000 miles away, helping people understand it's all connected. Now, we say that kind of sheepishly. There's no separation. It's all connected. It's just like the CIA talking about the remote viewing. Why is it that I can sit here and then I can see what's going on someone Russian's desk? Everything's connected. So to allow people to understand what's out there, alternative methods of healing, the spiritual path, but also to help them understand that the spiritual path is not better. It's just different. It's just different. It's just another experience. So we live through these experiences of consciousness, and it's how we take in and experience the world. Is that a good assessment?
Yeah, our senses, our five senses came from consciousness. How is it that you're able to hear me? You have ears. Who gave you the ears? Like when you think inside your head and you can hear my voice, what gives you the ability to hear that? People would say the brain. It's not the brain. We have these five senses. They came from consciousness. So they're just perceiving consciousness, and without the separation, it's kind of like a light going through a prism. There's one light goes through a prism and it refracts a billion different ways. To the naked eye, the way we perceive, there's a billion different ways, there's a billion different rays, there's a billion different lives. Bring it all back to the source, it's all one. But we were built for the separation. We were built for you and I to talk on opposite ends of a podcast. That's the duality of this world, and it's perfectly fine, but everything is consciousness.
That's the mission. That's why I was sent here, was to do podcasting.
What you're doing.
I love it.
Yeah, it's exactly.
And I love it. So talk to us about some of the other projects that you've done in your journey through life. How did you discover consciousness, meditation? There was a teacher you mentioned. Tell us about your journey through life and how you got here.
So born and raised in Utah. You being in Utah as well, it's heavily Mormon. I wasn't. Again, I wasn't atheist, though. I wasn't Catholic. I had unique parents that religion and spirituality was not in our awareness. I didn't even know they existed.
Wow.
So when I got older and I was offered a job in my late teens, I didn't do well around kids my age. So as soon as I had the opportunity to be around adults, I really thrived. I thrived in business. I didn't have a background in business. I didn't have any training, But as soon as I got involved, I was a sponge. I sat around executives. I was okay being ignorant. I was okay asking dumb questions. I was okay being perceived as the dumbest one in the room because I wanted to learn. I wanted to absorb it. Business took off. After flying 2 million miles in that business, I discovered or developed a fear of flying. It came out of nowhere.
Really?
It pushed me to leave the business, but then I was on a plane a month later. So it had nothing to do with the fear of flying. The universe needed me to leave that company, get out of that environment, which was fine. It was a great environment, but it needed me to get to the point where I would go on to the Pay It Forward, which would teach me another lesson. But more importantly, to get to the point where I would cross paths with my teacher. I would understand all of that. What I did with him is he didn't have to pull Jesus out of me or Buddha or atheism or right or wrong or Republican or Democrat. What he had me do is read all of the books, all the religious books, all the Judaism, all the Bhagavad Gitas, all the Mormon, not to teach me, not to fill me in with a bunch of different identities, but to show me that everything is the same. It's all coming from the same source. So once you understand that, you can't pick a side. You realize that there is no sides to choose. You realize Republicans are just as ignorant as Democrats, and Democrats are just as smart as Republicans. You start to see, why does a Harvard grad 170 IQ on both sides, how can they argue with each other and see so differently? It's a division. It's our conditioning. It's how we were raised. It's what we were raised. If you were raised in Utah, you're most likely going to be Republican. If you're raised in Seattle, you're most likely going to be Democrat. Why is no one piecing that together? Why is no one piecing together there's levels of consciousness? Why is no one understanding why it's been this way for so long? So what my teacher helped me understand is consciousness. When you understand that everything is consciousness and that it's all coming from the same source, you start to understand why it's so divided and conflicted, why we're so ignorant in a sense, why there's so much war, why my God's better than your God. And then it gives you the compassion and empathy to be neutral. And now I know neutrality in our world today is seen as like a weakness. But imagine for a business that is incredibly divided and conflicted with their employees, having someone come in neutrally and bring everyone's consciousness up, letting them see things in a different perspective so they have a little bit more compassion and empathy. In a sense, being a CEO whisperer with the C-suite, not in an authoritative way, not telling them what to change, not taking capitalism down or ruining businesses, merging the two worlds so that everyone in the company has a little bit more clarity. When everyone has a little bit more clarity, everything shifts in a way you can't even imagine.
Wow. And so you want to normalize this title of Chief Consciousness Officer. And what's the benefit to that? How does that work, and how does it benefit the company? How much money is this guy going to bring in, basically, is what I'm saying? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Again, for the last 20 years, we have pushed meditation, yoga, and the spiritual path for mindfulness to calm everyone down. We're stressed. So most companies, small, medium, and large, they've implemented wellness programs, right? Those wellness programs, look at the world today. Does it look like it's working?
Not really. That seems to be having some issues I hear about on the news.
So our heart, the people who implemented those, their heart was in the right place. But HR was forced to do it, in a sense. The CEO didn't have the budget for it, but they did it for employee retention. They didn't do it to better people. They did it because everyone else was doing it, and they thought it would be a tactic to be more profitable, to, in a sense, hoodwink the employees. Now, most of the employees don't engage with it. It's something they put on the wall as one of their values, but no one lives it because of the inauthenticity. It's just natural. Like, I'm not judging it. It's like the behind me, the wall's white. Is that a judgment? It's not a judgment. I'm just simply stating the facts, and everyone would agree with that. What a chief consciousness officer would do is, it would not be about meditation. It's not about spirituality. It's not about mindfulness. It's about bringing to the understanding and to the awareness of everyone in the company, from customer service to the CEO, consciousness. Because the only thing we've ever known is the mind, and the mind is divided. The same mind that creates the problem cannot solve it. So everything that's breaking down right now, the system was built by the people the system that's breaking down was built by the same people. So they're going to try and fix it in the same way they built it, which created the problem. If you don't expand awareness and tap into the vast resource that is consciousness, you're just going to keep having the same problems. The difference is the shift happening now, which you can feel and everyone can feel. This is not normal. This is not like other shifts. This is not economical. This is not human. This is not, if you don't understand history, you're bound to repeat it. This is such an internal, massive timeline ending shift that the executives do not know what's hitting them, and the tools they've used to right the ship in the past will not right the ship now, because the clarity of the employee, their bullshit meter is through the roof. So when an executive says with a smile on their face, yada, 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 this is why we're doing it, the employee will look at that and say, I heard what you said. I know you don't believe it. I know you're full of shit, and I'm not going to put up with this. So the ability to suppress and lie to each other, it's shot. It's gone. It's never coming back from both sides. Chief Consciousness Officer can bridge that gap. They can help the executives understand what's going on. They can give a little bit more safety and security to the employees, because when I ask a question and I don't have a dog in the fight, the walls come down. I'm legitimately asking the question out of pure curiosity to help, not because I want to know that you're Democrat and that I'm never going to listen to you again, or because I found out you're an atheist and I don't feel comfortable around you. Neutrality, which I don't think companies have. They can't because of their conditioning. They don't have the training I have, and they weren't this blank slate. So that unique set of combination of skills, I can't imagine anything more crucial for a company. I truly can't.
Yeah. You know, the one thing I learned as a CEO a long time ago, I'm not the purveyor of all the great ideas. I had a few at the beginning that worked well. But, you know, I knew I need to, you know, and constantly, you know, I learned a long time ago, you know, how to think out of the box. There's the 9-point dot experiment that I love, where you connect the 4 lines to 9 dots and without lifting your pen, and learning to think outside the box. And then also scotomas. So I would do, you know, I'd sit around the table at my office being like, what am I missing? Here's the idea or concept or new application that I built or new structure within the workflow. Does this seem like the right thing to do? What am I missing? I would always be asking my staff, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? What is my blind spot here? Why? It sounds like a great idea to me because I came up with it, but what's wrong with this idea? And I would be trying to search out that you know, external, I guess beyond my consciousness maybe would be a way of saying it. Is that, I'm still new to consciousness, clearly, because most people for 16 years know I've been asleep on the show. He snores a lot. Anyway, but yeah, so I've been trying to, you know, get outside of my thing to understand stuff. Because when I'm wrong, it's very bloody expensive and painful. And I found that out with lots of trial and error.
Everyone does. Yeah.
So, you know, I'd rather ask people around me and try and get outside of my consciousness to see if the idea that I have really is a great idea. Because learning it's a wrong idea after years of money and time is not fun.
No, it's not fun for anybody. And, you know, I've done a few others today, and everyone has a story of, like you said, like, I'm trying to expand, I'm trying to look for the answers. All CEOs are doing that. Okay. So when they listen to this, if we don't get into great detail of the shift or the difference of it, they're just going to look at this and say, I already do that. So the other podcast I did earlier was a guy who talked about someone an employee they helped. Like how they wanted to, in a sense, show me a story of how their consciousness helped this. And what I would say to that is, even the most evil CEO, the most, like the company he took over had a 90% turnover rate. I mean, it was just horrific. And he turned it around. That's great. Even the CEO of the 90% turnover rate would have a story of employee they helped. So when you talk about what you did and you expanded, you wanted to go out and you were looking for solutions and you were asking employees and you're okay being wrong. That's what everyone does right now. And my question continuously is, just like the wellness programs, how is it working? Okay. So everyone, CEOs are they're smarter than I am. What they're lacking is they don't have the understanding and the bias and conditioning that creates their blind spots. So yes, they're always reading. Yes, they're always going to listen to other executives. They're always looking for a new shift, a new tactic, a new something they can implement. They don't see that every time they do that, it's coming from a Republican perspective or a Democratic perspective or a Catholic perspective or an atheist perspective. We just think that's normal. We chose a side, other people chose a side. I don't agree with them, to each their own bullshit. We don't realize that when we make those decisions and we think we're going about this in an incredibly intelligent way, we've alienated 50% of the solutions, plus our awareness is here and all of the answers are out here. We can't see it. Oh, wow. And if you want to talk about how fixed the mind is, no matter what your intelligence is, look at the NASA study. They followed 2,000 kids. 98% of them were considered genius at 4. By the time those kids were adults, it was less than 2%.
Wow.
If you don't think that impacts even CEOs and executives and C-suites, you're out of your mind. It impacts everybody. I accidentally, because I'm not that intelligent, just because how my parents raised me and being 10 years with a teacher who stripped me out of it, I did not close off my box in mind. I didn't choose a side. So that to me is incredibly beneficial for companies because of the neutrality. For me to help the CEO see 100% of the landscape and the answers and bring him in such a neutral way, he doesn't say, that came from the Democrat in the room, I'm not going to listen to him. And I know people watching this think that's asinine and childish. Once again, look at the world. You do that. Most people do that even without understanding it consciously or subconsciously. We all have stories of success. We all have stories of helping people. We all love our family. We all love our kids. We all love the people who are on our side. But there's something about those other people on the other side that if push comes to shove, it's not going to work out too well for either side. We have to bring that division and conflict out. We have to be aware of it. We have to be aware of those blind spots. And that's what a CCO would do in a way that would allow the person to do it on their own, because the time of seeking a third party or a teacher or seeking an authority for the answer, that's dissolving.
Yeah. So you see this rolling out to corporations across everywhere.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Oh, hell yes. And it's going to be soon.
And is this an embracement of, we've talked endlessly on the show about how companies and executives and CEOs, they don't walk their talk. They put up PR, statements. Here's what we're doing as a moral, integritous company, and then integritous is not a word, but I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to do the opposite of that. And you're going to sit around and, like you said, the employees are smart enough to go, "You're full of shit," as George Carlin used to say.
Yep. Big fan.
And how do we pick these people? Because I imagine this takes a certain type of person that can't get locked into their own paradigms, maybe?
Yeah, so this is where I'd like to help. I'd like for an organization which I sees in the near future, because guys like you and these other podcasts I'm doing probably would have not had me on as recent as 3 months ago. They've admitted.
Yeah, we're regretting it right now.
Yeah, exactly. This is a horrible decision on your part.
Great guest.
But the collective shift is allowing me, for these people, they don't really understand it, but at their soul level, they're like, this kid's onto something. Let's see what it's about. Yeah. So what was the question again? How did I lose my mind there?
I was asking what
bring it out into other companies.
Because imagine it's got to be somebody who's got a real open mind like yours from your...
So they have to have, there's a lot of spiritual people that if they're hired into this position and they're against money and capitalism and against tearing down the structure, that's not going to work. That's just not going to work. It's going to be like the wellness program. People are not going to work because the CEO is not going to listen to them. They need someone who understands business. So I think the person needs to come from corporate America, understand business, have their own business, nonprofit understanding, but they've got to have time with a legit teacher. And that is a very rare thing, because there's a considerable amount of people on the spiritual path that go do ayahuasca trips or psilocybin trips or breathwork classes or a 10-day silent retreat or work on a lot of this stuff, but then they leave, but they don't have, I had continuous guidance. Every time I came up with some asinine question, I would ask it and he would say, really, that's really what you think that is? And then I would realize, first of all, I was wrong. Second of all, it wasn't relevant to the neutrality he was trying to pull out of me. All the things we're really thinking. It's like going to a lot of meetings I've been in lately. You go for an hour. There's 6 executives in there. all 6 of them ask the same freaking question in a different manner, give a different answer, and then everyone voice is heard, and then they walk away and nothing gets done.
Yeah.
That meeting could have got done in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
or worse, you have the yes men. You have the yes people who say, "That's the greatest idea ever. Yeah, let's do that."
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And that
they're
doesn't
just
help.
saying it just because.
And they're just saying it because they want to kiss ass. But the devil's advocate is the Catholic to the atheist. That doesn't help either. We're both coming from the wrong side. So this position is a very unique individual. I know there's a lot more of them out of there. I'm hearing from more people. It needs to be articulated correctly. And what I would like to do is, I know it's going to be soon, someone's going to hire me at a decent sized company. And other companies are going to see this, and then everyone's going to jump on board, because they won't really know why, but kind of a fear of missing out. What am I missing? We need a CCO. I'd like to help those companies understand who to hire and help them make that hire, because I know from a collective standpoint, the more small, medium, and especially medium and large companies who have someone like this, it is going to drastically shift. If that company's got 10,000 people and they got a CCO, you better believe that all 10,000 people will be impacted in a way they can't even fathom because of their consciousness.
So do you with this position, is it trainable? Is it something where, because your youth experience and growing up, being able to see all sides, is this trainable? I mean, is there a course people can take in the future or something?
Maybe something will come up in the future. What's happening now is a lot of people are reaching out to me and they're asking questions, and I can immediately kind of help them cut through the bullshit. I can help them see their bias and their blind spots very quickly. I don't think it's going to be like other positions where, like a CTO or a CMO or a chief revenue officer, where you go on LinkedIn and someone gives you a 10-point list and they sell it for $1,000. That shit's coming to an end, and I am very happy about that. Very happy about all these consultants out there that their heart's in the right place, but that's coming to an end, because they're all saying the same stuff, and they're coming from a unique perspective, a biased perspective. I assume as consciousness continues to raise on this planet, there will just be natural candidates. There will be natural candidates who are past the point of thinking spirituality is better than capitalism. They're past the point of thinking that one side's better than the other, and they're going to naturally, like I did, merge those two and be able to bring a perspective and a clarity and a neutrality naturally to corporations and businesses, to the C-suite, to VPs, to customer service, to talking to people at the water fountain and understanding their fears and insecurities from a point of curiosity, not figuring out if I need to like this person or not.
Yeah, because I imagine it would take a certain type of mind or developed mind, for whatever time length it takes to do stuff. I mean, you kind of have to give up a lot of your biases, right? And
you have to. But once you're aware, like, when you know better, you truly do better. I hate that quote, but that's we look at the society we built, and it's pretty chaotic, but that's the best we could do. If we would have known better, Chris, would we have not? We would have done better.
Yeah,
we would have done better. When you bring awareness, and I very much appreciate guys like you giving this exposure. When people hear this, the seed's planted. They go and they hear something like this, they can't unhear it. There will be something in their mind that starts to ask, this guy's crazy, but maybe he's onto something. Maybe I need to learn the consciousness. Maybe I need to read a different book. Different questions will pop up. That expands awareness. So it's just going to be a necessity moving forward. And I think there's going to be more people who will really naturally fall into this role.
It's like I said, I learned a long time ago the hard way that I'm not the purveyor of all great ideas. I remember, I tell the story, one of the last CEOs I worked for, I always asked him, there was one guy who was on the board who was the negative Nancy one. Like, whatever it was, like, do you guys want to drink coffee in the morning? No, I want to drink, I don't know, water or something, whatever it was. He was the alternative guy. Like, he would be the opposite of everything. Even if it was a great idea, it was like, you just knew. And I was like, finally I went to my CEO buddy and I go, hey man, it's really annoying. Does he always have to be in the room? Because you just know his argument every time he shows up. And he explained to me, he goes, Chris, the worst thing you can do as a CEO is be surrounded by yes men. Now, that guy's on the board, and I know he's always going to be the alternate or the the opposing sort of guy, whatever sort of idea is going to come up. And many times he's wrong. He goes, but when that guy is right and everyone else is telling me go for it, and that guy's saying don't go for it, and he's right, he's fucking dead on.
Yeah.
And he's going to save me money. So he goes, you need to surround yourself with people. Don't ever surround yourself with yes men on your board or in your management team or leadership that you do. You want those voices that have opposing stuff, and you want to be able to listen to them and see if they're right. And so I can see how having this level of consciousness would be advantageous.
It would be advantageous, but the guy, that's a very contradictory comment with your CEO, because he said he may be wrong most of the time, but when he's right, he's fucking dead on. Okay, that's fine. But how do you know? How do you know? How do you know when he's dead on? Because maybe he was dead on another opportunity, and he was so negative you didn't listen to him. So these constructs of how we go about not surrounding ourselves with yes men or having too many yes men, that to me is like a Republican and a Democrat. Yeah. That to me is an old construct. The CEOs say they're being intelligent and saying, I'm not surrounded by yes men. I'm going to be able to listen to everybody. Once again, how is it working? Look at the world, look at the employees, look at executives. This is a very internal shift, which means that 40, 50, 60 years of the entire existence of people on this planet, everything they've ever suppressed is coming up. So these very intelligent, confident CEOs and executives are having different thoughts, different fears, different insecurities, different worries, and they're lacking confidence, and they're starting to think things that they never thought before, and they're coming unhinged. What worked in the past was because of the confidence and the people just thinking they were smart and they knew what they were doing. When they lack that vision and that clarity and they start to doubt themselves, employees can feel that. And a lot of times what those executives felt may not have been right, but no one's going to talk to them. No one's going to say anything.
Yeah.
No one's going to push back. So it just kind of bleeds out and works. It's kind of like it worked out in spite of everyone. It wasn't the right direction, but because everyone went in that direction, everyone thought it was right. Look at the world. Yeah. What's happening now is a shift that humanity has never experienced. I will promise you, as we come out of this, it won't be the same thing. It will not, because it's going to be a clarity thing. It won't be, let's get back into the same routines. Let's go get the same in consultants, the same tent. It's not going to be the same. You can mark my words on that. It won't be the same.
We'll be looking for the change. What more do you do on your website? I know on your website you have some different teachings about consciousness training, the PTM technique. Tell us about some of the offerings you do over there. I don't know if you want to plug your podcast or anything else I see on your website.
So the consciousness training was more of like the beginning of this process before the chief consciousness officer came about. It was kind of one of those baby steps. I couldn't see that far down the road until this idea came out, and this is really 99%, 100% of the time, this is what I want to push on a show like this. But there is consciousness training, which is a simple 4-week program for individuals, for groups, for sports psychologists to help their athletes, for executive teams. If they want to go through that 4-week program, basically they got the first week in this podcast, just talking about consciousness, learning about what it is, that it's not spiritual, that it's tactical, that it's mechanical, that it's something they can involve in their business. So it's a 4-week program. And it'll be just like everyone says, they'll never be the same, right? The best thing they can ever do, all that. This one really means that, because it's stuff they can't unhear. It's stuff they've never heard. They don't bring consciousness into their day-to-day life. They don't understand techniques of going back into consciousness we're going past the mind in a sense. We're helping them understand this is just a middle mind, and that we need to tap into this vast resource that we were born into, that we are. So again, it's a shift in, I don't know of any other consultants or anyone going down this road with this type of clarity, this type of verbiage in this type of package. So it'll be something truly different that they will take with them as this natural shift happens, because they're going to be searching for answers, and they're not going to be able to tap into the same books or the same experts. It's going to change.
And is the person under this title, do they work under the CEO?
Yes, they would report to the CEO, but they would not have, in a sense, authority really over other employees. So they wouldn't come in and change things up. They wouldn't be a threat to HR. They wouldn't be a threat to marketing or sales or anything like that. They would be like a CEO whisperer, but they become the glue of the C-suite. because the power of a very clear consciousness, when you walk into a room, it changes. It literally will change the energy in the room. It changes everything. It brings down the wall. In a sense, you being in Vegas, do you remember the movie Cooler with William H. Macy?
William H. Macy. No, I don't think I saw that one. He's a great actor, though.
So Vegas, remember, they have coolers. Like if a table's hot, they'll go send a very low energy guy or girl to just cool it off and shut it down. So the whole movie's about that. But Vegas actually has these guys where if someone's on a blackjack run or someone's at a roulette table and they just keep flowing, they got the cameras. They'll send in someone that's just like an Eeyore, like and they'll go over. And because of their energy, they will mess with the energy at the roulette table. So the movie is about him being the cooler. This is a legit thing.
I've been in Vegas for 20 years and never heard about the cooler, but I don't gamble much at all.
Yeah, neither do I.
At all.
So the chief consciousness officer would be the polar opposite of that.
Wow.
They would walk into a room, and because of the consciousness, because it's all that energy, when you have a clear consciousness, it just pours out. It would bring everyone up. Their clarity level would go up. Their walls would come down. Their ability to hear people from a more neutral standpoint would be a natural byproduct of someone like me just being in the room.
That should be interesting. I did.
Yeah.
Now I know the coolers. I can see how that would work, though. I've been on tables where people, there's been some guy and he's just on fire, and he's just running game, and I don't even understand what they do because I'm not a gambler. If I want to gamble, I do dating and building companies. That's how I lose my money. Women, who saw that coming? But yeah, so I can see how that would disrupt. There's kind of a flow. Especially, in the numbers of people that are sitting at the table. If you're playing blackjack, obviously it's going to affect the cards that are being dealt. And then energy-wise, because sometimes, you'll feel that vibrant energy of somebody. I've had some belligerent people at the table that, they're usually trying to have, I guess they didn't have coolers working, but they'll have a boss come over and start working the dude or trying to get him off the table, hey, you want some comps and stuff, and they try and interrupt the play. And
truly,
I remember I had one guy, he's the car that's in the front lobby that you're giving away, if you give me that car, I'll get off the table. And I'm like, holy shit, it's got some balls. But, I come from the days when the mob was still running a couple casinos, and I'm like, that's pretty ballsy, dude. Have fun with that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to end up in a back room with a hammer. But unfortunately, they don't do that nowadays. The corporations just do the front room with the pricing. For You're like, $25 for a burger at McDonald's? What the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the beginning. So as we go out, give people a final pitch out on picking up your book, reaching out to you, getting involved in what you're doing, maybe how they can discover more about this consciousness, learn how to do it themselves as we go out.
Ask the question what consciousness is, look into it. I'll know you'll put this in the show notes. My number is 801-633-6033. You'll put my email in there, my LinkedIn as well. I really like to drive people to LinkedIn so they can see the conversations of what a CCO is. And if they want to reach out, I'd love to talk to organizations about the position becoming a full-time, or if they just want to try the consciousness training for an individual or an executive team, we could try that as well. And that's a very 1 to 2 hour a week, 4-week process that would drastically alter the individual or the executive team or whoever did it.
It's been wonderful to have you on the show. Very insightful, and I'm going to think hard about trying to be more conscious. I try and be as conscious as I can, but I don't know. I've been excused as sleepwalking through life.
Everyone.
Charley, thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Thank you. And order up his book wherever fine books are sold, folks. It's called Truth Has No Sides, out September 25th, 2024, by Charley Johnson. Thanks to our audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.